Hi and welcome. Today I want to go through how to create a custom IP core for an XPS project. If you want to create an custom-made IP core, there's some things you need to do in order to make it work. The reason for doing this, and the reason for creating a custom-made IP is often that you have some peripheral that you want to interface and you want to have something happening to the signal before interfacing it to the microblaze processor, or it could be that you want to implement some functionality which is not part of the normal IP library that comes with Xilinx. The overall of what we are going to do today is to first of all create our custom-made IP. Then we are going to implement the functionality that we like to have in our IP core. It's this part. And then at the end, we want to write some software and we want to connect the IP core to the world around us. I'll be splitting this video into three. So we'll be starting by just creating the skeleton for a custom IP core. Then we will look at the modifications we need to do to this skeleton in order to make it a functional core. And then at the end, we will be writing some software that utilize the functionality we have in our IP core. The IP core we're going to create here is for reading values of some push buttons I have on my Spartan 6 development board. So it's basically, it is really simple, but it's just to show how to create the IP core and have the signals go through it and into the microblaze processor. So the first we need to do is to create our skeleton of our custom IP core. I have cheated a little bit and started up a project here where I have a microblaze processor implemented, and with some of the peripherals that I have on my development board. I also have written some software that utilizes these functionalities, and this project is what we are going to work on. In order to create a similar project, you could take a look at some of my other videos. I have a video called XPS and microblaze. This video goes through the steps of creating a project similar to this one, where you have a microblaze processor implemented with some software running. So have a look at that if you need guidance in order to do so. Now we are going to create our custom IP, and to do this we are going to use a guide in Xilinx. So under the hardware, create or import peripheral, we are going to go through this. So first of all we go next, and we select that we want to create a template for a new peripheral. We want to store it locally in our project directory. We could also have it stored at a repository if we want to share the IP core with some colleagues, but in this case we keep it local. Then we want to give it a name. We call it custom IP, and we go next. Then we want to set the bus type we want to interface on the microblaze system, and for this setup, since we're using basic push buttons, the AXI4 light bus is fine for our use. So we go next. Here we can set up some things regard to whether we want software reset, if we want to use the logic software registers, and to have some input on data phase time. We can also set if we want to have logic master support. We don't want to change anything here, so we just go next. Here we need to set how many registers we are going to implement in our IP core. You can set up to 32, but in this case we're only going to use one, so we leave it at the default. Here you can see the ports that goes in and out of our peripheral. The standard is working fine for us, so we are just going to press next. In case you want to simulate your peripheral, you would need to implement a simulation platform, and you can do this by clicking here. In our case, we don't want this, so we leave it unchecked as it were, and go next. Here we have an overview of our peripheral with the top level implementation via STL file, and then the user logic via STL file. So the user logic file implements the functionality we want in our block, and the top level file connects it to the outside of the block on the microblade side. We'll get back to these two. These are two separate files, and we'll get back to them in a minute. Here we want to make sure that we are creating some template drivers for when we're doing software. And we also want to have ICE project files created for us. We're not going to use them in these videos, but just make sure you generate them because they can come in handy at a later time. With this, you go next and you go finish. And when this is done, you would have in the IP catalog over here, the new IP core will show up in just a minute. So here we have project local IP cores, or our local project cores, and you can see we have this custom IP down here. So going back to this one, what we have created now is simply the skeleton of our IP core. So the IP core is not useful in any way because it doesn't include any functionality whatsoever. Well, it has the basics of how to interface to the XI bus and those things, but it doesn't do anything in terms of reading from the push buttons. So this we still need to implement, and I'm going to show that in the following video. So see you.